Northern Maine has a way of feeling endless. The kind of place where the trees go on forever and the lakes are like black mirrors when the sun goes down. Maybe that's why none of them thought twice about pitching their tents at Wren Lake, a secluded, quiet place 2 miles off any marked trail. It was supposed to be a simple weekend trip. Just Mark, his fiancée Jenna, and their 2 friends, Ryan and Chloe. They brought fishing rods, a cooler stuffed with cheap beer, and Ryan's brand new Sony camcorder, the kind that was supposed to capture memories forever. They joked about it at first, about how they'd film a nature documentary, about how Mark could propose on camera if he grew a pair, about how Chloe might finally catch something bigger than a bass. They laughed a lot that first night, drank too much, fell asleep to the soft chime of wind moving through the trees. The first crying started on Friday. It was faint, almost too faint to be real, like the way an old house creaks at night, and you convince yourself you heard a whisper. But Mark heard it. So did Jenna. It drifted across the lake at exactly 2:14 a.m., soft and broken, like a child somewhere deep in the woods. Crying, whimpering. At first they all brushed it off. A fox maybe, or an owl. Wren Lake was isolated. Animals made weird noises. It was easy to believe that wrapped in their sleeping bags, safe by the fire's dying glow. But the next night, it came again. Louder, closer. Ryan, drunk on too many beers and bravado, dared Mark to film it. "Come on, man, this is golden. Viral. Ghost kid of Wren Lake," he slurred, laughing too hard at his own joke. So Mark, grumbling, grabbed the camcorder and scanned the inky trees. The camera's screen flickered. For a second, he thought he caught a glimpse of something pale moving between the trunks. But when he swung the lens back, there was nothing. Just the sound of crying. Thin, desperate. When they played the footage back the next morning, it was almost worse. There was static where the crying should have been. Strange quick flashes of something white darting across the background. Chloe swore. She saw a face reflected in the water behind them. Something small, something grinning. But when they paused the video, it was just a blur. They should have backed up. God knows later they wished they had. But there was something magnetic about the mystery. They stayed. Told themselves they were chasing a story. Told themselves they were safe. The third night, everything changed. The crying started earlier, even before midnight. The wind died completely, leaving the woods too still, too silent. The only sound, that sad, broken wailing. Mark filmed again. This time, they ventured down to the edge of the lake, their flashlights slicing through the mist that curled along the ground. And that's when they saw it. The child. It was crouched by the water, tiny, shivering. Couldn't have been older than 6 or 7. Its hair hung in stringy wet clumps over its face. Its clothes looked ancient. A tattered white dress, grimy and torn at the hem. "Holy shit," Ryan whispered, lifting his phone to film too. Jenna grabbed his arm. "We have to help," she said. "We can't just leave them out here." Mark felt the same instinct, felt it strong. Some primal, desperate urge to protect. But at the same time, his gut twisted in warning. Something was wrong. Something about the way the child moved. Slow and jerky, almost puppet-like. Sent cold worms of fear squirming up his spine. "Hello?" Jenna called softly. "Are you hurt? Are you lost?" The child didn't respond. He just stared at the water. When they took a step closer, the child finally stood up, but didn't turn around. Instead, it began to walk onto the lake. First 1 foot, then another, light enough that the surface barely rippled under it. Silent. Impossible. Mark caught it all on camera, hands shaking so hard the picture blurred. The child walked farther and farther out, until it was swallowed by the mist curling over the black surface. And then, the crying stopped. Just like that. Silence. Terrible thick silence. They didn't sleep that night. They sat by the fire, huddled close, waiting for the dawn. At first light, they broke camp in a frantic rush, threw everything into backpacks, didn't even bother rolling up the tents properly. None of them spoke a word. It was only later, back home, when they played the footage again, that they noticed the most horrifying detail. In every shot of the lake, in every trembling frame of the small crouching figure, there was no reflection. The child's image stood clear as day by the water's edge, but the surface of the lake was still, undisturbed, mirror flat. But there should have been a second shimmering copy of the child beneath it. There was only darkness, an absence, a hole. Like the world itself refused to acknowledge what stood there. Mark deleted the footage that night. Not because he was afraid of someone seeing it, but because he was afraid the thing would notice them. That somehow, by recording it, they had made a connection. Sometimes late at night, Mark swears he hears the faint sound of crying coming from the pond behind his house. Always at 2:14 a.m. He doesn't get up to check anymore. He knows better now. Some things aren't meant to be found. Some children are better left crying in the dark. The Yukon wilderness doesn't forgive fools. That's what Cal's dad used to say. But when you're 22, drunk on summer and invincible in your own mind, warnings sound more like dares. That's how Cal, his girlfriend Elise, and his old buddy Trent ended up camping half a mile off the official trail, in a place where the trees grew so thick that even the moon looked squeezed between the branches. It was Trent who found the tarp. They'd been hiking all afternoon, boots sucking at the soft ground, mosquitoes buzzing around their heads in tight, angry clouds. Then Trent shouted from ahead, "Hey, what the hell is that?" It was a sheet of blue plastic stretched out oddly between two broken birch trees, sagging in the middle, faded almost to white in places, battered by wind and rain. At first, they figured it was just litter. Hunters or old prospectors left all kinds of junk up here. But when they got closer, they heard it. Whispers, faint, urgent, like someone was standing just behind the tarp, murmuring secrets too fast to understand. "Probably the wind," Elise said, though her voice was a little too sharp. Cal wanted to agree, but the woods were dead still. Not even a breeze to stir the leaves. Trent, grinning like an idiot, pulled out his phone and started recording. "Yo, imagine the TikTok hits. Haunted Yukon," he laughed. "Don't touch it," Cal said, before he even realized he was speaking. They camped 20 feet away. That night, they built a fire and tried to pretend everything was fine. Elise strummed her guitar half-heartedly. Trent cracked jokes, but no one could ignore it. The way the whispers got louder after sunset. Not just from under the tarp now, but around them. Above them, beneath them. When Cal went to piss behind a tree, he swore he heard his own name hissed right against his ear, soft and slick as a snake sliding over stone. He didn't mention it when he got back to the fire. He just drank another beer, pretended. Around 1 a.m., The tugging started. At first, it was just the lightest brushing at the edge of the tents, like a branch in the wind, but there was no wind. Then something gripped the fabric, yanked it, hard, like a hand trying to rip the tent open from the bottom. "Jesus Christ!" Elise screamed. Her flashlight beam slashed across the clearing, catching only empty woods. Trent burst out of his tent, holding his hunting knife in one shaking hand. No footprints in the dirt, no animal tracks, nothing. Just the whispering, louder now, frantic, almost angry. Cal's skin crawled. He could feel the wrongness pressing against him, thick and invisible, like being underwater. "We need to leave," Elise said. "At night?" "In the Yukon. We'll get lost and freeze before morning," Trent snapped. They argued, their voices jagged and trembling. The whispering seemed to lean closer, huddling around them in the dark, tasting their fear. They made it till dawn somehow, huddled together by the fire, backs pressed against each other, flinching at every crack of a branch. At first light, Trent, stubborn, stupid Trent, said he was going to look under the top. "Don't," Cal said again. He didn't know why. Didn't care if he sounded crazy. But Trent just laughed that reckless laugh of his, stomped over, and ripped the top up in one hard yank. There was nothing underneath, just dead leaves and damp soil. But the whispering didn't stop. It grew louder and louder. Cal clapped his hands over his ears. Elise screamed. Trent stumbled back, dropping the top. Shadows flickered at the edge of the trees. Tall, spindly things that didn't seem to belong to any human shape. The three of them ran, didn't bother packing, left everything behind. Tents, sleeping bags, gear, and sprinted through the woods like hunted animals. They didn't stop until they hit the gravel access road, lungs burning, legs shaking. None of them ever talked about it afterward. Not really. But sometimes Cal dreams about that night. He dreams of the top, sagging, torn, and the way something unseen crouched beneath it, whispering promises he almost wanted to believe. He dreams of the thing following them home. Because sometimes, in the dead black of night, Cal swears he still hears it. Not outside, inside. Whispering from the closet, from under the bed, patient waiting.